15-year-old Eva Jerlene Debruhl would get up on the morning of June 29, 1977, and go outside and mow her parents' lawn at their home in the Charlotte, North Carolina area. She would then come back inside and make some iced tea. She would receive a phone call requesting her father to go into work, so she informed him and he left just after 11 a.m. Eva's mother worked the night shift and was sound asleep around this time. When she woke around noon, she would find the television on in the house, a pot of iced tea and a glass, and Eva's rubber flip-flops on the front lawn, but Eva was nowhere to be found. Eva has never been heard from again. None of Eva's clothing or belongings were missing except for her eyeglasses. Between the hours of 11 a.m. and noon, Eva's grandmother, who lived nearby, saw a late model blue and white or green and white Jeep-style vehicle drive up to the Debruhl residence and stop by the front door. A man would get out of the vehicle and make his way to the front porch where he appeared to be talking to someone through the screen door. The grandmother assumed the man had come to talk to Eva's father about fixing the car, but Eva's father had already left to go to work. She would see the vehicle again about 10 to 15 minutes later. However, Eva's grandmother didn't notice if he stopped again and never heard any suspicious noises and never saw Eva get inside the man's vehicle. The man has never been identified, and it is unknown if he had any connection to Eva's disappearance. He is described as Caucasian with a medium height and build and was seen wearing a light green shirt and dark green pants. Eva's family said she was always well behaved, had no boyfriends, and always kept her mother informed of her whereabouts, which means Eva most likely didn't leave on her own and foul play is suspected in her case. Eva's father, so stressed about her disappearance, would quit his job to spend his days searching for her. Eva's name would come into the public attention when suspected serial killer Henry Lee Lucas would confess to killing her. The only problem is, Henry Lee Lucas confessed to killing close to 600 people, and many of those crimes he confessed to, he didn't even commit. So while Henry Lee Lucas claimed to have killed Eva, it is hard to say whether he was being honest or not. He was originally sentenced to death, but his sentence was commuted in 1999 to life in prison. He would die in prison of heart failure at the age of 64 on March 12, 2001. Sadly, it is not known if he actually killed Eva. As of today, Henry Lee Lucas has never been charged with her disappearance, and Eva has never been found, and the case remains unsolved. Robby Ann Floyd was last seen on December 1, 1996, by a neighbor outside of her house on Winter Park Drive in Fayetteville, North Carolina. The neighbor stated that Robby was packing boxes into her blue van. She was accompanied by 3 of her 4 children, Serena Glenn and Brent and Brittany Hughes, and Robby's younger sister, Jennifer Hughes, along with an unidentified woman. The neighbor reported that Robby introduced the woman as her mother, but her real mother later said that she had not visited the house in several years. Robby claimed to be on her way to visit her sick father in Alabama. They also stated that Robby seemed to be in a hurry as well. After leaving, they have never been seen again. At the time of her disappearance, Robby was married to Jason Allen Floyd, whose nickname is Shane. She and Jason had 1 son together, Brandon. Jason and Brandon both remained at their Fayetteville residence after Robby, Jennifer, Serena, Brent, and Brittany had left. At the time, Robby's sister Jennifer was 17, Serena was 11, and twins Brent and Brittany were 4 years old. The twins both had a heart condition that required medical attention. Jason told authorities that Robby and the others had left to go to Sylacauga, Alabama, and that he had spoken with her shortly after she departed North Carolina in 1996. He claimed that Robby was staying at a motel near her father's home and promised to call him again several days later. Jason stated that he never heard or saw his wife and other family members again. Authorities learned that Robby and Jason were having marital problems in 1996, but had reconciled prior to her disappearance after being separated for some time before December 1996. A neighbor told investigators that Jason and Brandon continued to live at the Fayetteville, North Carolina home until February 1997, 2 months after their family members were last seen, but then left the area. She also stated that Jason mentioned he and Robby getting a divorce. Even though some of this seems strange, Jason is not believed to have been involved in his family's disappearance. Robby did not maintain constant communication with her family members in 1996. Because of this, her sister and children were not reported missing until August of 1998, almost 2 years after they were last seen. Relatives in Alabama stated that Robby and the others never arrived in the state. Robby's mother stated that it is uncharacteristic of Robby to voluntarily disappear for an extended period of time. She also stated that Robby planned on moving her sick father to North Carolina in 1997 to care for him. He sadly passed away in 1998. Relatives also stated that Robby did not graduate from high school and does not have any job training. There has been no activity on any of the missing family members' social security numbers since 1996. Robby never registered her van and has not renewed her driver's license since her disappearance. Authorities are stumped and are unsure what led the family members to vanish. In a 2014 article, detectives stated that there have been confirmed sightings of Jennifer Hughes, including one at Walmart on Ramsey Street in Fayetteville. They said Floyd and her children may be hiding out in Alabama. Family members, including Serena's father, Jerry Glenn, hopes he will someday see his daughter again, but states, "My gut feeling tells me something's not right. Just for 5 people coming up missing doesn't sound good from the start." Authorities have stated there continues to be no activity on their social security numbers and that no schools have ever called for their records. It's as if they don't exist anymore, stated Lieutenant Jimmy Black of the Cumberland County Sheriff's Office. As of today, this case remains unsolved. 22-year-old Priti Ashley Porter was last seen in Gastonia, North Carolina on the evening of April 19, 2009. She went by her middle name Ashley and lived with her mother and stepfather on Windy Hill Drive. Sunday, April 19th began as a normal day with Ashley and her mother going to church with other family members. They all had dinner together, and after dinner, she spent some time on MySpace and then went to a neighbor's house. At 10:00 p.m., she returned home and told her mother goodnight. The next morning, her mother went to get a coat out of Ashley's closet and had to knock on her door because it was locked. After Ashley's mother got no answer, she had her husband, Ashley's stepfather, open the door, where they found the bedroom window screen missing and Ashley gone. She has never been seen or heard from again. All her belongings, including her purse, cell phone, clothes, and money, were all left behind. Ashley's family believes that she climbed out of her bedroom window that night to speak to someone and planned on coming home. Her mom, thinking the best, thought that maybe Ashley had left on her own and forgot to call and therefore waited another week before she called police. According to Ashley's family, one of her ex-boyfriends was abusive towards her and as a result was not welcome into the Porter's home, which answers the question why Ashley may have felt the need to sneak out the window. This individual has not been identified, and it is unclear if he is involved in her case. Ashley graduated from Ashbrook High School 2 years earlier in 2007 and worked manufacturing jobs afterward. Her family stated she did not use drugs or drink obsessively and had never been in trouble with the law. Police reports initially noted Ashley's disappearance as not a crime, missing person. However, over time, they began to suspect foul play, and a 2017 news article noted that authorities are currently releasing little information about the investigation as they do not want to jeopardize it. Sadly, there is little information to go on in this case, and as of today, it remains unsolved. On the morning of September 20th, 2001, 33-year-old Angela Whalen Hudson walked her 2 children to the bus stop in Pelham, North Carolina. When her children returned home from school that day, Angela was not at home, and they were told by their stepfather that their mother claimed to have something she needed to do and left the home on foot. Angela never returned and was never seen again. Even though there was a history of abuse in their marriage, since there was never any evidence of a crime, not much has been done by law enforcement to find Angela. She lived in a rural area, and the only place within walking distance was a small convenience store, but she left her car behind. Angela had filed for a divorce and went missing on the same day as her second scheduled meeting with her divorce attorney. She had gotten a restraining order against Robert, but as Robert was a cabinet maker and his workshop was attached to the Hudson home, the judge allowed him to be at the workshop during working hours without being in violation of the order. Angela and her children had planned on having an aunt and a cousin over for dinner, and they had been trying to get in touch with Angela but couldn't because her phone wasn't working. They went ahead over to Angela's home and discovered she was gone. They found half-prepared food laying out on the counter and table. She had been cutting up meat and veggies, and it was all left laying out unfinished. Her car, purse, jewelry, eyeglasses, and medication were still at the home. The following day, her family went back to the house to get her and the children's belongings. When they arrived, her husband's adult son was at the house and stated that his dad had to go out of town, so he wasn't there. Strangely, the son would only allow the family in certain parts of the home. A detective said Robert was asked to take a polygraph test twice but refused, and none of the 4 acres of property or vehicles were ever searched. Angela was initially considered a runaway, which was strange with the history of abuse in the relationship. There are a lot of unanswered questions, such as why Robert wouldn't take the polygraph test and why his son refused to allow family in certain parts of the home. Particularly, the son kept the family away from a huge freezer in the house and the father's workshop. Her family described her as a devoted mother who would have never left her children without someone to care for them, not even during a flare-up of her bipolar disorder. Robert was not the children's father, and he did not want to support them. This happened in 2001 when missing persons with bipolar disorder were not taken as seriously as other missing persons cases. Her family describes her as a very private person who kept things to herself, and they stated she always had a pattern of getting involved in abusive relationships. As of today, her case remains unsolved. Brittany Locklear was 5 years old when she and her mother, Connie Locklear Chavis, were waiting for the school bus on Gainey Road in Rayford, North Carolina. It was still dark outside on the morning of January 7, 1998. Her mother went inside briefly to use the restroom, leaving her daughter alone at the bus stop for only a few minutes. When she looked out the door, Brittany was nowhere to be seen. After rushing to Brittany's school, West Hoke Elementary, school officials would inform her that Brittany never arrived. A neighbor, Rose Johnson, reported seeing Brittany being abducted and told authorities it was a white male in a full-size brown or tan truck. The neighbor told law enforcement that the pickup had slammed on the brakes and wheeled into the driveway at 202 Three Guys Loop near the Bowmore community. A man got out of the driver's side, grabbed Brittany, and sped away. While neighbors insisted it was a white man in a brown pickup truck, authorities said they were unsure of the color and other details. Over 500 people would join the search for the missing child, and her clothing and backpack would be discovered the same day. Tragically, one day later, on January 8th, the day after her disappearance, a search party would find Brittany's naked body in a drainage ditch off Ryan McBride Road, about 3 miles from the family's home. She had been raped and drowned to death. Investigators would release a warning looking for a brown truck, and residents from across the region started calling in tips, so much that they started piling up. However, they didn't have the manpower or equipment to take this many calls and were basically unprepared. By the time the FBI gave the detectives software to manage the crime tips, calls had already started to taper off. Jay Tilley with the State Bureau of Investigation stated, "We know there was info that came in that we didn't follow up on." The family said the sheriff at the time, Jim Davis, had tried to intimidate them into confessing to Brittany's death. They said he even tried to pin her death on Brittany's step-grandfather, James Stevens, even going as far as to show him half-naked photos of Brittany. Brittany's mom, Connie, would accuse Jim of using the case to help his election campaign. In 2001, voters would vote in Huber Peterkin instead of Jim Davis, making this the third sheriff to take over the case. In August of 2002, investigators thought they had a break in the case when they arrested Fort Bragg firefighter Keith Douglas Laundrie for bank robbery. Upon cleaning out his locker at the fire station, they would discover a photo of Brittany from a newspaper clipping, which investigators thought was strange. However, when they tested his DNA, it did not match the DNA found at the crime scene. A reward is being offered for information in Brittany's case, and her parents have both been cleared of involvement. Child molesters within a 50-mile radius of Brittany's home were also questioned, but the interviews provided no leads. Brittany was called Little Brittany by her teachers and classmates because she was the smallest and youngest child in her class. She hugged just about everybody. Her mother said she liked going to church and to school and wanted to become a pilot when she grew up. Her family still seeks answers in this case. As of today, there have been over 17,000 leads, 92 agents, and over 9,100 hours worked to solve this mystery, but the case remains unsolved.